So you're thinking about buying a house at the Oregon coast, and you're probably wondering what regions, what towns should you be looking in? Well, in this video, we're going to look at them all and give you a glimpse into what each area has to offer. There's such a vast array of unique offerings in terms of small towns, larger towns, everything in between, proximity to different areas in Western Oregon, and the list goes on. So if you want to learn more about what each area on the Oregon coast has to offer, stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is Paul Clem with your home team coming to you from the Oregon coast. And if you want to learn about everything there is to know about what it's like to live, work, eat, sleep, play, and the pros and cons of living at the Oregon coast, hit that subscribe button and make sure to tap that little bell so you're notified every time that we drop a new video. And we are getting people calling, emailing, texting us every day who are thinking about moving to or relocating to the Oregon coast. And we love to hear from you. So if you're thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or even schedule a Zoom call in the description below. No matter how you get a hold of us, we have your back when it comes to moving to the Oregon coast. So if you are, whether you're out of state or somewhere in Oregon, and you're thinking about moving to the Oregon coast or buying a second home or vacation home here, you understand that the Oregon coast is a magical place. There's so much to offer, obviously great scenery. The landscape is beautiful, it's majestic. There's so much to offer. Great food, great restaurants, the seafood. There's awesome events every year throughout the year. The weather can be a little bit moody, which, does tend to draw a lot of people to the area. Whether it's the winter storms or, really the mild summers, the rain, the clouds, and either way, if you are looking to buy a house at the Oregon coast, you probably have some kind of understanding of some of the areas that you're interested in. Maybe you grew up coming here, maybe you've been here recently and fell in love with it. But either way, there's so many towns, and there are the smallest quaint little beach towns to more large population centers, and again, everything in between. So if you're going to make the decision to buy a house in the area, you want to make sure you land in the right spot. You want to make sure you end up in a place that fits exactly what you're looking for. And pretty much, in this video, we want to go down the list from north to south and talk about each region and each town to give you a little bit more of an understanding of what these areas have to offer. So starting from the north, you have Astoria. Obviously a lot of rich history there. It's actually not on the coast, so it's probably the most unique town on the Oregon coast, meaning it's not on the coast, it's not on the beach. So it's actually on the mouth of the Columbia River, which provides for a really awesome, unique scenic landscape. You have cargo ships coming in and out of the port every day. Astoria has great restaurants, great breweries, some boutique hotels, definitely a tourist destination, but has that small town feel, unlike anywhere else on the Oregon coast. Connected right next to Astoria is a place called Warrenton, which is maybe less of a tourist destination, but they have your Fred Meyer, which is a grocery store in the area. If you're not familiar, your Walmarts and kind of your big box stores, Costco. So the things that you need, you're going to be able to find there. And connected to Warrenton is a place called Surf Pines, which is an awesome resort community. Doesn't have a ton of amenities, but it is gated, very private, feels very safe, a little more upscale. and definitely has a lot to offer in the way of kind of privacy and safety, if that's something that you're looking for. And just to the south of Astoria and Warrenton, you have Seaside and Gearhart. Seaside is probably the biggest tourist destination on the coast. It's the closest town to Portland. So, you get families and people vacationing there all throughout the year. There's arcades and tons of gift shops and ice cream and saltwater taffy and candy stores and just a great family atmosphere. Probably one of the busier towns, and for that reason may not necessarily be somewhere that you want to land, especially if you're relocating full time. But if you're looking for a little more activity in your day to day, you're going to get that in Seaside. And just to the north of Seaside, in between Astoria and Seaside, is Gearhart, which is primarily a second home and vacation home community. Very well planned and laid out, very clean. You have the McMenamins Gearhart Hotel, the resort right there in the middle of the community, which has the oldest golf course west of the Mississippi. It's a link style golf course. It's not too challenging, but it's a pretty awesome place to play. I've played there a bunch of times. So Cannon Beach, Cannon Beach, just to the south of that, is another huge tourist destination, just given its proximity to Portland, but also the town itself, has a very clean, unique aesthetic, a ton of great restaurants. Pelican Brewery just opened a location there not too long ago. Big, vast beaches, and of course Haystack Rock, which is probably one of the most photographed places on the coast, and it's actually what's behind me here in this video. So connected to Cannon Beach is a place called Arch Cape, which is really just a stretch of road, mostly vacation homes and vacation rentals, things like that. So going to be a lot quieter, but you're not going to have stores and shops and things like that. And then just moving down the coast, you have on Nehalem Bay, you have a little town called Wheeler, and then Manzanita. You're going to be right there next to Neahkahnie Mountain, which is probably one of the biggest hiking destinations on the coast. It's the highest point on the coast. So it obviously, that's going to offer incredible views, sweeping views, but you have to catch it on a day that isn't cloudy, which at the Oregon coast is kind of hard. But even if you get a foggy morning, you can hike up there and the clouds burn off. It's incredible. You can see for miles and miles to the south, from a pretty popular viewpoint up there. It does get a little crowded, but Manzanita is a town that, definitely feels like it's a little more up and coming in a way. Very quaint little downtown. It's a little bit off the beaten path. And it's got a ton of great homes, as you can see. So, there's a lot to offer in Manzanita in the way of kind of having that little core of a town, with all of the offerings that you would be looking for in a beach town, but it's very small, very quaint, as well. So, that Nehalem, on the Nehalem Bay, Nehalem, Wheeler, Manzanita, that area, definitely going to be, you're going to get your share of tourists, but it's going to be a little more low key, a little more laid back. And then moving down to Rockaway Beach, and into Garibaldi, but really Rockaway Beach is another pretty big destination for vacationers. A lot of vacation homes there. It definitely feels a little more like kind of a weekend spot, but has a lot of unique offerings, of course, as well. It's got like Nadana Beach, Manhattan Beach. It's got a lot of great beaches, a lot of driftwood too. So if you can see yourself, doing like a lot of bonfires on the beach, that's going to be a good place to land, and definitely a place worth looking, Rockaway Beach. And then as you move south from Rockaway Beach and Garibaldi, you start to get into Tillamook Bay and into Tillamook, which is one of the larger towns on the coast. It's actually set back from the ocean a few miles. So, it has kind of a rural small town feel, without feeling as much as a beach town as maybe some of the other places. But obviously you have the Tillamook Creamery, the cheese factory that has, probably tens of thousands of people coming in and out every year. And, it's a great place to take the family. If you're looking to move to the Oregon coast and you're really looking for a beach town, Tillamook itself may not be the one. But just due west of there, you have these two little towns that are hidden out in Oceanside and Netarts. Those are definitely off the beaten path. They're set off from the 101, the highway, the main highway that goes up and down the coast. And, it's probably some of the more secluded towns that you can find. And this, all of these towns that we've talked about so far make up what's considered the northern region of the Oregon coast, or the northern Oregon coast. And so, what that means, aside from, having kind of its own unique landscape and, with the beaches and the rock formations and things like that, is your proximity to the Portland metro area, really Portland and Salem, kind of that mid to north Willamette Valley, which is where the majority of people in Oregon live. So really that in and of itself can tell you that, you're going to probably get the largest percentage and the highest frequency of tourism, just given the proximity alone. But, that has a lot of benefits. That has its upsides as well in terms of supporting the local economy there on the northern Oregon coast, more activity, more things to do. But you're still going to be bumping into out-of-towners quite a bit, probably, in any of these areas. So definitely something to consider. So that's the northern Oregon coast. Again, a lot to offer, from small, quaint little beach towns to larger population centers. And then moving into the central Oregon coast, starting at about where Pacific City is, you have the start of some sand dunes, kind of a changing landscape a little bit as far as some of the scenery and some of the activities that then provides. Pacific City has Pelican Brewery, which is kind of one of the OGs, one of the original Oregon coastal breweries, and definitely a popular spot for people to go, set right on the beach. Pacific City's, got a small little downtown area. It's definitely not the smallest town on the coast, but, definitely a little more secluded. You're going to get a lot of surfers, maybe not as many families coming in and out as a place like Seaside, for example. Definitely has a lot to offer, though. And then in between Pacific City and Lincoln City, which is right in the middle of the Oregon coast, is a little place called Nesquin, which is as much of a quintessential small little coast town as you can get. You're going to get more seclusion, more privacy. And if that's what you're looking for, a place called Nesquin is going to be something to consider for sure. So moving into Lincoln City, you have what feels like at least the largest town on the coast, because it just stretches for miles and miles down the highway on 101. You don't have that kind of quaint little cute downtown area as much, but you have a lot in the way of stores and restaurants, and of course the Chinook Winds Casino, which does bring in a lot of people from all around the state. And if you like to gamble, have a good time, being closer to Lincoln City, you're going to be able to get to the casino and enjoy that. But another cool thing about Lincoln City is, along the west side of the highway on 101, you have a lot of oceanfront properties, which, not every town on the Oregon coast has properties that are set right on the ocean like that. So there's a lot of options from, kind of smaller, kind of, beach cabin-y feels, to larger, more luxurious houses. And so there's a lot of options there as far as being set right on the beach, where you can usually, find a path to walk right down to the ocean. And if so, proximity to the beach is important. Lincoln City definitely has a lot to offer, but it's definitely not a small town compared to a lot of the other places that you could be looking. And then just south of Lincoln City, you have Depot Bay, which is huge for whale watching. It has a really cool stretch of a downtown. It's really small, and it's set right on a big ocean wall, kind of retaining wall. So you look out over Depot Bay, and you can catch whales out there, breaching the water. There's also whale watching tours and things like that. But Depot Bay is going to be on the smaller side in terms of a town. If again, if that's something that you're looking for, that might be worth considering putting on your list. Although, for its size, Depot Bay definitely seems to attract a lot of tourism too. So something to consider. So when you think about the Central Oregon coast, aside from Lincoln City, to some extent, you're really probably thinking of Newport. Newport is, kind of like Lincoln City. It's not a small town. It has a lot to offer as far as restaurants and seafood and activities. The Oregon Coast Museum is there, Oregon Coast Aquarium rather. The Ripley's Believe It or Not. There's a wax museum. There's a lot of kind of tourist things to do. A lot of really cool activities that you can do. But set right on the Yaquina Bay, I believe, where the river comes in. There's this awesome bridge. I mean, it's very scenic, very photogenic. And if you're not looking to be kind of cooped up in a small town or too secluded necessarily, Newport is a really good option. And as you can see, I mean, there's a lot of different styles in terms of neighborhoods and places you can live in the area. Just overall, I mean, when people think of the Oregon coast, Seaside is definitely up there. Lincoln City, of course, but Newport is probably the quintessential Oregon town on the Oregon coast. So just south of Newport, you have Waldport and Yachats, which are two small little towns. Yachats in particular, very quaint, very cute little town. It has like a grocery store, restaurant, brewery thing that kind of all in one, which is really cool. Like it's a little market where you can sit and enjoy some lunch. And Waldport too. I mean, these are areas where if you want to be a little more off the beaten path, again, everywhere you go, you're going to get your share of tourists and people coming in for the weekend or staying a week there. Everyone likes to get out to the Oregon coast for sure. But Waldport and Yachats are going to give you a little more seclusion, a little more isolation, and probably a little more peace and quiet, which if you're moving to the Oregon coast, for a lot of people, that is, that's definitely something that's a big consideration. And then furthest south in kind of this central region on the Oregon coast is Florence. Florence is known for kind of its unique landscape with the lakes just offset from the ocean, a lot of sand dunes. So if you're into like dune buggies, ATVs, sand surfing, or just kind of, that style of landscape, Florence is a really unique location on the Oregon coast. It also has an A&W drive-in, which is like the classic drive up, where you order from your car and sit there and eat in your car. It's like a scene from the 50s. It's pretty cool. Every time I get through Florence, I make sure to get there and, or I make sure to go there and get a coney dog or two or three, depending on how hungry I am. And then just south of Florence too, you have the Honeyman State Park, which, is a big campground, definitely brings in a lot of tourists, but provides for different trails, a place where you can get out and explore, what Florence and what that little part of the coast has to offer. So, that really comprises the central Oregon coast. If we're looking at kind of Pacific City, Lincoln City, to the north, and then Florence to the south, You're going to be in closer proximity to like Salem, down to Corvallis, Oregon, down to Eugene, Oregon, which, all told collectively, there's probably 500,000 people between that stretch of Western Oregon. So you get a lot of people kind of funneling into the Central Oregon coast throughout the year. And the other way around, if that's an area that you want to consider looking for your home search, you can get out to those different towns, in a couple hours. So you're not too secluded, but it's definitely set a little bit further away from Portland, so you don't have as much of an influx necessarily, which there's so much to consider there as far as just places being crowded, wear and tear on the communities and things like that, traffic, so depending on what it is you're looking for, the Central Oregon coast has a lot, again, Pacific City, Lincoln City, Depot Bay, Newport, Yachats is, probably my favorite town on the Central Oregon coast. And then Florence is awesome. I grew up going there to Honeyman State Park every summer to go camping. So actually, funny story, in Florence, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I was on an ATV out on the dunes with my dad, and he let me sit up front to kind of steer the ATV, which in hindsight was maybe a little bit dangerous, but we were out there having fun, and we were going pretty fast, and I turned right up a dune that was about this steep, and we fell completely backwards, and the ATV rolled over the top of us. Luckily didn't land on us, but that was a pretty scary moment, but also a fun memory that I'll never forget. So those are the kinds of activities and things you'll get, especially down closer to Florence. If it hasn't been made clear at this point, and if you aren't as familiar necessarily with kind of the breadth of the Oregon coast, again, we're looking at over 360 miles of coastline. It's really broken up into 3 distinct regions. You have the North Oregon coast, the Central Oregon coast, and the Southern Oregon coast. And that north section, a little closer to Portland, as far as where you can get to either coming or going. Central Oregon coast, you're going to be closer to like Eugene, Salem. And then the Southern Oregon coast is definitely the most secluded, for a couple of reasons. There's a smaller population in the southern part of the state overall, but there's just also less accessibility to the Southern Oregon coast. So, again, you're getting tourism up and down the coast year round, no matter what. But if you're looking at the Southern Oregon coast, you have, a more distinct quality in terms of kind of these small towns and communities, probably more so than you get in the Central and Northern Oregon coast, just because they are maybe on their own a little bit more. And there's not to say that there's pros and cons to that either way, which again, depending on what you're looking for in a place, if you're relocating or looking for a vacation home, definitely just some things to consider. Going down the Southern Oregon coast, south of Florence, you have a town called Reedsport, a town called Winchester Bay, which aren't necessarily going to be as much tourist destinations, probably going to be more so just kind of small standalone towns amongst themselves. Although Winchester Bay just put in a little food cart pod, which I've seen pictures of. I haven't been there yet, but it looks pretty awesome. And these are smaller towns too. So if that's what you're looking for, Reedsport, Winchester Bay might be worth some consideration. But if we're talking about the Southern Oregon coast, we're talking about North Bend and Coos Bay. North Bend and Coos Bay are 2 towns that connect with each other. They're pretty similar in size, population-wise, and landmass-wise. And between the two, there's about 30,000 people there. It's also set on Coos Bay. It's not directly on the ocean. So kind of like a Tillamook, for example, up north. Coos Bay and North Bend are going to, be their own kind of standalone small town, very tight-knit community with a rich history as well, with the logging industry, and of course, fishing and the tourism too. So if you're in North Bend and Coos Bay, I mean, you don't necessarily feel like you're at the ocean or you're at the coast, but you can go out west and get to the ocean and some of the greatest parks and scenic areas on the Oregon coast in just about 10 or 15 minutes. So if you want to live in a place that has a larger population, a lot more to offer in terms of a town and a town to live in, whether it be North Bend or Coos Bay, very distinct neighborhoods, very cool parks and scenery and downtown areas, without being set right on the ocean. Maybe you're worried about tsunamis, whatever it may be. That area is kind of protected by the coastal range that separates them. And so, it has its own unique climate and weather patterns. It's just going to be a different feel and a different aesthetic overall. But North Bend has an airport. Coos Bay has a casino. There's a lot of great restaurants. Seven Devils Brewery is there. It's just kind of its own community amongst itself in a way, as far as you don't necessarily feel like you're living in a beach town, but you can get out to some of the best beaches Oregon has to offer, in just a quick drive. When you get out to like a place called Charleston, for example, there's a big marina there, and you can go buy your seafood. And in terms of a tourist destination on the Southern Oregon coast, just south of Coos Bay, you have Bandon, which has world-class golf, some of the highest ranked golf courses in the world, that bring people in from all around the world throughout the year. Bandon Dunes Golf Resort has, I think it's 6 courses now. So there's kind of something for everybody and every skill level, but it's not necessarily somewhere where you would play like every week. There's golf courses all up and down the coast. So if you are an avid golfer, there's places that you can find that aren't going to be $150, $250, $300 a round like Bandon. But the town of Bandon is incredible. One of the coolest downtown areas among all the towns on the Oregon coast. Great world-class restaurants, breweries. They make the Face Rock Creamery. Some of the best ice cream you can get in the area. You're going to get kind of a busy, high energy downtown in town, and these neighborhoods throughout Bandon as well. You can get some really kind of high-end luxury that are set up on the cliff overlooking the view of the ocean with just these epic sweeping views of the landscape. And it's pretty incredible. If you look at Bandon and the Southern Oregon coast, really probably one of the most desirable areas. There's people coming in from California and all over the country. It's really a hidden little gem and kind of has something to offer for everybody. Really regardless of what you're looking for. If you're looking for kind of a bigger town and bigger community, or if you're looking for that kind of quaint beach town feel, you're going to get all of that in Bandon. So definitely worth checking out. And then as you move south down the coast, you have a handful of smaller towns, Port Orford, Gold Beach, and Brookings. These are all pretty spread out. It starts to get more rural, more remote as you go down the coast. So there's less towns kind of bumping into each other. Then you have, say, especially in kind of the northern Oregon coast. But if you're looking to kind of get away from it all, so to speak, looking at like a Port Orford, Gold Beach, Brookings, you're getting into a totally different climate. You're getting into a place where, you can't just access from I-5, Interstate 5, which goes, from Canada to Mexico on the West Coast. There's just no direct shot to these areas, and for that reason, they feel a lot more secluded and feel like you're in this place that is really yours. Again, tourism, is coming through there from all over, but at the same time, it's just much more spread out and has a much more secluded feel, really for the better. And the scenery on the Southern Oregon coast is, among the best up and down the coast. I mean, you have these just epic cliff sides and waves crashing in, and it's something. There's something about the Southern Oregon coast that you just can't get the further north that you go. So if you're really looking for kind of the aesthetic of the ocean and trying to be close to, the kind of the power of what the ocean and these sweeping views and beaches and landscapes offer, the Southern Oregon coast really might be a place worth considering. The other end of that is you are further away from places. So you're probably, if you're in the Southern Oregon coast, you're going to, have less opportunity to venture out north, south, or east. Obviously, if you go west, you'll hit the ocean, which you can get anywhere up and down the coast. But, so it really all depends. And it comes down to kind of what, what size of town you're looking for, what types of amenities you're looking for in a specific town, what the proximity is to larger population centers like Portland, Salem, Eugene, or in Southern Oregon, like a Medford, Grants Pass, Ashland, Roseburg, for example. And I can confidently say, having been going to these places my entire life and having spent the last year recording these places from Astoria all the way down to Brookings and everywhere in between, that there is truly something for everybody. So if you are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, whether you're buying a second home or vacation home, or you want to relocate full time, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or schedule a Zoom call in the description below. However you get a hold of us, we have your back when it comes to moving to the Oregon coast.